I want our neighbors to know that they have neighbors that deeply care about the shedding of innocent blood. And I don't want anyone to live in Waco for 10 days without seeing the pro-life challenge in our city.
John Pisciotta, thank you so much for coming out to California.
Well, it is my pleasure to be here.
And you're coming in from the great state of Texas.
I am coming, and right in the middle of Texas, Waco, Texas.
But you're an Italian.
Oh, I'm full-blooded
I
Italian.
love that.
Oh, good.
Full-blooded, 100%.
100%. All my grandparents were immigrants.
Wow.
And my father was a farmer in Pueblo, Colorado.
Wow.
And then there were a lot of Italian Americans in that area. So I grew up sort of, I won't say an Italian ghetto, but a lot of Italian relatives. We still have a lot of Italian relatives that I look forward to get back every once in a while. And it's always nice to see them. Yes,
a lot of cousins, I'm going to guess, growing up.
A lot of cousins.
How many siblings did you have?
I had 2 siblings.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. My mom's 100% Italian, so okay. I always, when I see the Italian,
that's good. I get excited. Good.
It's only 50%. I'm not at 100 like you. Well, you're a kind of one of those pro-life heroes that keeps a low radar, but is doing some really and has done some really special things. So I want to hear your story about, first of all, how you got involved in pro-life work.
Well, as a Catholic, I've been pro-life, but for many, many years, I was what I call a pro-life fan. And I was cheering for the pro-life side, doing nothing. And then 2 people, as you probably know, 2 preachers, fiery preachers, Flip Benham and Rusty Thomas, came to Waco after they had just recently opened up an abortion center. And they had a rally. And I was reading in the newspaper that they're coming, they're going to be a pro-life rally in Waco. And in my office at Baylor University, I debated with myself, should I go? Should I not go? Is this really a thing that a Baylor professor should do? And in the end, I went. And that changed the trajectory of my life. And they had also, in addition to Flip and Rusty, there was Joy Davis was her name, a woman who was post-abortive. And so the rally convinced me, I didn't need to convince, but emphasize the humanity of the unborn. And then I also saw that I don't think abortion is really helpful to women with that testimony. And so those things stayed with me through the years.
So before you got to this rally, you were pro-life, but kind of a bystander. Like you said, you were a professor at Baylor.
Yes.
What were you teaching?
Economics.
Economics, excellent. And so you come to this rally, and it's kind of an unusual thing maybe for a professor to show up at this kind of pro-life rally, because you're typically, intellectual in the classroom, and you're changed afterwards.
Yeah. And just that, with that rally, they were there for 2 days. And I just made the decision then that this was going to be a part of my life.
So what did that look like once you got back to teaching at Baylor?
Well, actually, Rusty very soon moved to Waco, and there were a couple other pro-life organizations. And so I was assisting them. I was a part of them. Then Rusty didn't move from Waco, but he went on the more national scene.
And these are some of the founders and key operators in Operation Rescue.
Right.
Which was a movement in the 90s. For those that don't know, they should know, what is Operation Rescue?
Well, they were involved in Kansas with very dramatic protests where they blocked abortion centers and got a lot of publicity, law breaking involved in that. So some of them served time. And were jailed at times and charged at times. And but then there was another Right to Life organization. I was involved in the Catholic Church as a coordinator for my parish. And a friend and I started a little organization, Greater Waco Pro-Life, whatever, it changed its name.
Greater Waco Pro-Life?
Yeah, over the years. And then it looked like everybody moved away or dropped pro-life, and I looked around and I said, I think I'm the leader now. And
Were you still teaching?
oh yeah, I taught for more than a decade, and so I did both. I did pro-life, and it wasn't quite as active as it has been recently. But I did pro-life, and I was a teacher at Baylor, and by and large, it was supported that I was involved, not by all my colleagues. University faculty members, whether they're in a Christian school or not, which Baylor is a Baptist school. Some of us tend liberal. And but it was cool. I mean, you go through life, you're supposed to make some waves. I heard that in a recent graduation speech. And then in 2012, I retired.
And during this time, I mean, I imagine your family, Italian immigrant family, super hardworking. They were very proud that you became a professor of economics at Baylor.
Yeah, they were. I mean, my two brothers got college degrees and had very, very good careers. But we had a wonderful family, wonderful parents.
What did they think about your pro-life work once you started that?
My mom was a little, "Be careful, John. You're going to get in trouble," but she liked it. But she mothered me all her 95
Italian
years.
mothers are.
Yes.
They never stop mothering. Their sons especially, but.
And I'm the baby of the family.
Of course.
I know you're not.
Yeah, I'm the oldest girl, so I might as well be the oldest.
Yeah, but when you're the baby, you get some extra special attention.
But it looks like you put that to good use. So now you're at Baylor, and this is up until retirement. You're doing pro-life activism. What was the first time what was the kind of first activist thing that you did?
Well, I think relating to Planned Parenthood, the focus was on Planned Parenthood. Jim Sedlak came to town, and he was my mentor and guided me helped me with my focus, which was to make Planned Parenthood radioactive. And they had a sex education program called Nobody's Fool. It was a one-day program in the summer that they brought in children from grades 5 through 9. And there was a protest and a controversy every year.
Because you helped make that happen.
It actually was happened before me.
Good.
But I continued that and then kind of became the leader of that. And we'd get dozens of people out on the day of Nobody's Fool.
What was the thing about Nobody's Fool that you found most foolish? Not just foolish, because Planned Parenthood sex ed is based on Keynesian
their
sexology.
whole philosophy, however they use the book, it's perfectly normal.
Perfectly Normal is a book that exposes, effectively sexualizes children,
Absolutely.
little children.
Normalizes. Everything's perfectly normal.
Normalizes deviant sexual behavior, dangerous sexual activity to children.
Yes.
And this is the idea of Keynesian sexology. We talked about Keynesian sexology on the show before, that children are sexual beings that need sexual outlets, and that sexual experimentation is a good thing.
Yeah.
And that's what Planned Parenthood is teaching your kids if they have any influence on your children in school. Which, thank you for protesting that.
And we had eventually shut down completely, but over the years, we crushed it. At one time, there were probably about 700 kids coming into the Waco Convention Center. And,
so sad.
And the last year they had it, before they shut it down, we had a little clicker and we were counting the kids coming in. And there were 70 coming into the program.
This is an elective that the parents could choose to send the kids?
Yeah.
But the more word got out about how disgusting this thing was,
became
radioactive.
Became radioactive.
Because that's the
they
thing.
Knew we were going to be there, didn't necessarily want to go, we didn't break the law, but we
If Planned Parenthood
protested.
can keep the veneer of we're a professional organization doing good works for the community, then they can win over the support of normal people who are just like, okay, great.
And then, back to the, Jim Sedlak. You may get a little radioactive yourself, but you put the pressure on Planned Parenthood. So we got, and then part of this was in 2004 was the Girl Scout cookie boycott. And we boycotted the sale of Girl Scout cookies in our community, their local council. And why Girl Scouts, they had been putting their logo on the promotional materials. of Planned Parenthood.
See, that's a lot of people still wonder, like, Planned Parenthood Girl Scouts supports Planned Parenthood, but they had these partnerships with them, with some, not the, was it Girl Scouts National?
No.
It was the affiliate.
Well, I mean, Girl Scouts National was okay with that.
Permitted it, which is
but
huge.
It was our local Girl Scout Council. And then, in addition to putting their logo, what really flipped us to a protest was they named the CEO of Planned Parenthood as a woman of distinction to be a role model for children. And so
heinous.
we decided, and all we were going to do was
like
just hand out little flyers.
The woman that's leading the organization that is slaughtering millions of baby girls and lying to women left and right.
And they have an abortion clinic right in our city.
So it was the local council that named her Woman of the Year?
Yes.
In Waco.
The Blue Bonnet Council was the name of the council. The Blue Bonnet Council. There was an article in the newspaper, along with 3 or 4 other people, women that they named as women of distinction, and so I sent out an email about this, and I get a call from the local AFR radio station director, and he said, "Why don't you come out and do a 60-second spot, and we'll start rolling that about this." So I went out, did a 60-second spot. They started running that, and it just blew up in the city.
Amazing.
And the television stations, they started running the news story, running the spot. And then it just accelerated. And then the newspaper, oh my gosh, and they were ripping us. But it's better to be ripped than ignored. And letters to the editor back then, when newspapers had more prominence than they do right now. I mean, they'd like in a Sunday newspaper, there would be 6 or 7 letters on that side and 6 or 7 letters on the other side. And then Associated Press came out, and they did a story. And then it just went national.
I remember that. I think I was just starting my activism, and I interviewed a couple Girl Scouts about it.
2004, yeah.
Oh, maybe that was before my time, but a few years after that, then I would have gotten involved.
Yeah. And so I was on the Today
Thank you
Show.
for, wow.
And it had the effect of really making Girl Scouts a little bit radioactive. And a lot of this became known. There was kind of an undercurrent that something wasn't quite right with the Girl Scouts, but with that boycott and all the publicity around it, and then some of the ladies around the country that were Girl Scouts, or the children were Girl Scouts, they saw the light and made web pages on Girl Scouts. So that got us a lot of publicity, and really kind of formed the trajectory of Pro-Life Waco, which I call public square outreach. I say now, I want our neighbors to know that they have neighbors that deeply care about the shedding of innocent blood. And I don't want anyone to live in Waco for 10 days without seeing the pro-life challenge in our city. And so we do a lot. We're a local organization. I battle locally, McLennan County.
It's amazing. We need that in every city in America.
We do.
I love that standard that you have.
And we're protesting CVS Pharmacy right now every month.
How is that going for distributing the abortion pill?
It's going really well. We do it on a Friday, once a month, and we had 12 people out last Friday. And we got a lot of signs, and of course you pick a location that is most advantageous for you. So we just have an amazing location on a corner with traffic slowed, and the response is pretty well. We're handing out flyers about the abortion pill. We got a little explanation of how easy it is for you to change your prescription. But it's just being out there, and I mean, thousands of people saw us. We're out there for an hour and a half.
I think about the impact of Black Lives Matter protests on the narrative about violence that Blacks experience in this country, and how many people came along and said, I care now, the Black Square, they're putting on Instagram. But it took activism. It took activism, and it took a viral video of a man's death, George Floyd's death, to waken many people up, to wake many people up. And in the pro-life cause, 2,500 children are being killed every day.
Yes.
2,500 baby boys and girls are being slaughtered every day. But where's the activism? There should be activism in the streets every day. And so I love the standard that you have of saying every 10 days, no one should go by a 10-day cycle in Waco, Texas without knowing that pro-life matters and that this fight is happening and these children's lives matter. What is the abortion situation in Waco?
Well, we're in Texas, and
Lord.
and abortion is banned in Texas.
Before that happened, because the trigger, there you had the heartbeat law. Thank God, Governor Abbott signs that into law. Abortion rate declines rapidly. Then Dobbs v. Jackson happens, and the abortion rate is almost to zero in Texas. Before that, though, what was it like in Texas?
There's a lot of Texas women getting abortions.
Yeah.
So the law had a big impact on the supply side of an abortion. I said I was an economist. In economics, we talk about supply and demand. We have to change the demand side for abortion.
How do we do that?
Well, how do we do that? That's a good question. We got to change our game plan somewhat. Maybe it's long term, but we need to change sexual morality. And there's only one person at the national level that has talked about sexual morality post Dobbs, and I'm being interviewed by her right now. Your 5-point program mentioned that, but I'm shocked by the Catholic Church. What are we hearing from Catholics?
Well, we have this weird thought, I think, in some Christian or Catholic, evangelical or Catholic circles that, sexual ethics only apply to people of faith. That's a biblical or like a Christian or a Catholic thing, and we can't expect other people to want to live that way, when sexual ethics are for everyone. They're a matter of our human responsibility and how we behave with each other.
And we have to try. We have to try.
And it also is deeply human to live rightly ordered lives where we respect other people sexually, and we don't have sex with someone we're not married to or we're not ready to have kids with. Because the abortion rate, it's 84% of women who have abortions are single women. They're not married. And people who have sex in a loving marriage are much happier and better outcomes.
And pregnancy centers are wonderful. But I think we're wrong if we think politics and strong pregnancy centers will carry the ball down the field.
So what do we do?
Well,
we're working on some stuff, but how do you see it?
The first thing is to recognize that we should do something. We did, in February 4th, we had a seminar in Waco on advancing sexual integrity and abundant life. And so this is something that we will continue. We have something called a Second Sunday Gathering, also, where I cook spaghetti and meatballs to
that sounds
happy
great.
people.
You cook it?
Yes, David B. Wright came. I was so close to asking you to come, but
what a pro-life activist event. Just mail me a couple of your meatballs, please.
Okay, that's my mother's recipes for sauce.
But
I won't say the meatball.
Is it as good as my grandma's recipe?
Everyone would say, of all the relatives, that Rosalie Pisciotta, you've got the best recipe for sauce. And so I use that
Rosalie Pisciotta.
Oh,
what
isn't
a
that
name.
Beautiful name? Maiden name is Corsentino.
Corsentino?
Corsentino.
Not Corsini, Corsentino. No. Okay.
So I'm able to twist some arms of some people. Jason Jones was a speaker for us. But I recently had a speaker on sexual integrity. So we're going to try to just do what we can. And I have a Facebook group called Hometown Pro-Life Action. And it's got 16,000 members. And so I try on there to, I have a lot of sexual integrity and sexual disorder posts there because it's such a big part
What's
of this.
what's your advice to someone listening who's, passionate? They want to do something, they're not quite sure how to start. They know that activism is important, but they're kind of like maybe afraid to take the leap. What would you tell them?
First, send me an email at prolifewaco@gmail.com. And I have suggestions for getting started. And one of them is do something once a month. It's not enough to have, no, we do Life Chain every month, but I mean, to just do Life Chain once a year, it doesn't give you traction. You got to have something happening. And so you could be protesting CVS pharmacy, but have monthly activities. And then I think signs are important. Now, micro billboards are very important. Have you heard of micro billboards? Sometimes they call them yard signs. But they're very, very powerful. I mean, when somebody has a yard sign in front of their home, I mean, they're making a statement.
Now,
that this, so we buy yard signs and we give away yard signs. And so I took a friend who wanted a tour of the Waco residential areas the other day. So we had a nice drive through residential areas, and it was encouraging to see 3 of our yard signs along the way as we went on that tour.
Now, you've gotten in trouble for having yard signs outside your house, right? Or you've had some issues?
No, we had some trouble.
Some protesters
we were putting yard signs out at Planned Parenthood, and they said that we had.
But your yard signs were fine.
Fine. No, there's no.
So if someone listening, because they're like, oh, a yard sign in my house, what would you? Maybe they live in Berkeley, California. What would you say to them?
Now, Berkeley, California, maybe, but I say do it. But I understand certain, states are different from state to state.
But if you're not in Berkeley, you have no excuse. Put that yard sign up.
And you have no excuse for not trying. And so, a Heritage House, they sell single yard signs, but we have these yard signs that we give away. I love to have them at churches. They're very, very powerful with a yard sign. And one of our most popular is it just says "Love Both, Choose Life," and there's a picture on one sign. We have an Anglo-Hispanic-looking woman and precious baby. On the other side, we have an African-American mom and precious baby. And so it's, people are not going to put yard signs out that are too hard-hitting.
Of course.
So and so we had it at this church, and somebody was visiting the church from Sugar Land, Texas, and said, I got to have these signs at through our church. We worked together. They had 75 yard signs made up, and they all went out at their church. So we can do much, much more than we think we can do.
That's awesome.
Which we're saying, like some people say, even some people in Texas, we shouldn't really be protesting CVS pharmacy because they probably, because of our law, won't ever distribute the abortion pill in Texas. Well, so what? Their national headquarters made the decision that we're going to profit from this, so we're not going to give them a pass in Waco, Texas.
How much of us not doing activism is just a complacency? What do you think it is in people that they don't want to get out there and do stuff? Well,
we're not fired up. I mean, calling a spade a spade. I mean, the pro-life movement is just not on fire.
Why is that?
Gosh, why is that? Our church is not on fire. Public square outreach has gone out of style in the pro-life movement. It's gone out of vogue. Don't do that. And I think it's a big mistake. we've got to penetrate the middle of America. In the recent election, which I'm not going to sugarcoat this recent election, it was bad for us. We were supposed to win independent voters by 2 to 3%. We ended up losing by 2 to 3%. We have got to penetrate the middle of America.
And you think activism is essential?
Well, did I just say I would say one of the biggest achievement penetrating middle of America was a couple of Dr. Phil shows I saw. You know, you were talking to everybody. And
well, let's not hang our hat on that, because we gotta duplicate you about 1,000 times.
Well, no, that's very powerful. But we got to think about everything we do. The least important groups that we have to talk to, and we have to talk to them, is the choir, the pro-life choir, and the pro-abortion choir. Those are the least important groups that we have to. It's the people in the middle, the mushy people. And when they see us. You know, I don't have the solution, but I'm just saying, you know, you took the ball and run it with every, you know, you were on the Whatever podcast the other day of opportunities to get you out talking to broadly, to talking to America, and you do an excellent job. Well, in our hometowns, we got to say, well, what can we do? And there's so much that we can do. You know, I have an idea for
give me 3 for people listening. Give me 3 things they can do.
Well, first, sign holding type activities.
Even standing prayerfully in front of an abortion clinic for 30 minutes and praying and holding a sign could be as simple as that.
If that abortion clinic is located in the public eye, which most of them are not. Another thing is fairs and festivals. We have a booth at a county fair, state fair, local festivals.
We need to be at Coachella next year.
And that, now sometimes we're regarded, you know, they're kind of extra hard hitting. I mean, we're not hard hitting.
You're hard loving.
Well, and it's tough love.
Yeah.
You know, but yes, and those, we've got the soft baby models. Girls especially, they just love those models.
They're amazing to see. I mean, I remember I was in college, I think, or high school, I first saw them, and I was like, this is what the baby looks like at like 10 weeks.
And we let them hold the models.
And 10 weeks and 20 weeks.
That's an experience those youngsters will remember.
Oh, yeah.
It's this powerful experience seeing that, and then we give away the little models, the 10-week baby models that you can get from Heritage House. I'll keep mentioning that. There's just so much that's available. But fairs and festivals locally.
I had a friend who supported abortion, and we were talking about abortion together, and I tried to show her the model of the baby, and she just didn't want to look at it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because to look at this baby, 10-week-old, you see, you can hold, and this is when most abortions are happening. It's just devastating to consider. So it's like out of sight, out of mind. Yeah. But showing the baby and the humanity of the baby does make a big impact for that middle group of people who are not hardcore either way.
Yeah, right. And so I would say, 3 things. Signs, and we also, yard signs that every local community could have. And we also have billboards. We have 8 billboards, junior billboards, not big billboards, but good small billboard, well placed, is powerful. And fairs and festivals are things that can be done in local communities.
Are those the 3 things? Signs, fairs, and festivals? Are those your first thing?
Holding events where we are holding the signs. Okay.
And then go to.
And then have displays at fairs and festivals. And then have freestanding signs, like the yard signs.
But it's basically images and messages.
Yeah, so that's
it's like marketing. I mean, it is a marketing of the pro-life message.
Time and time again. So they know there's people in our community that are upset about abortion. We have a billboard truck. 18-foot billboard truck. The messages are G-rated, but strong messages. Life begins at conception and ends with Planned Parenthood and a nice ribbon of babies across it. So every year we go to the Texas Rally for Life in Austin. We park the truck along the billboard, along the march route, and all people are taking pictures in front of the truck. And that's preaching to the choir, but it's important to preach to the choir.
Yeah.
You can't neglect that. But we got to be mindful. What are we doing outside the choir?
From the activism that you've done and been a part of and what you're recommending for other people, what is a success story that you may have to share about how it's impacted someone?
The success stories that we have are small success stories. From last week at the CVS, a woman pulled off in car, went to the CVS parking lot, was just all fired up by us being out there. She's she's the wife of a pastor of a local church. We gave her a T-shirt, and she wanted 4 of those little models for her grandchildren. Always got to get.
But she got inspired.
She got inspired, and maybe we're going to get that church inspired.
That'd be amazing. And have you come across any lives saved? Have you been connected to any lives being saved?
Oh, I have been connected at times with communications that people think they're calling CareNet, and they may call me Pro-Life Waco, and I get a chance to talk to somebody and guide them to we have a very strong, and you spoke at the banquet, the CareNet
But to choose life, you mean people see Pro-Life Waco imaging or sign somewhere, and then they call you?
No, they maybe they're pregnant and they're wanting to talk to somebody, and they accidentally call me. One of the differences between the pregnancy care work and what we do, and Deborah McGregor, who was the outstanding leader of CareNet, is that they have such an immediate feedback about what they do, and that's really motivating. And I don't want pregnancy care to be any weaker. I want public square outreach to be stronger, and people can walk and chew gum. You can do different things. You don't have to do just one thing. And then another case we do overpass outreach, which is again a tremendous opportunity. Just coming from the airport, I saw 2 great overpass over whatever street we were on, right here. Get some signs up on that overpass. Are they not going to see you?
That's awesome.
And so, but we were doing overpass outreach, and there was a Panera Bread down below, and this man had his 2 or 3 children. And they were in Panera Bread, and the kids said, "Dad, what's going on up there?" And he explained what's going on, and they said, "Can we go?" And so they came with us, held signs with us. Their wife is going, the mom and mother was at a seminar at Baylor, and they were just killing some time. So the victories that we have are little victories. In baseball, there's some teams play long ball and some teams play small ball. Well, small ball's good.
It's good. It's one little heart, one little push.
Yeah.
And overall, it makes that difference.
Yeah, I think it does. And I think we're recognized. I have another friend who had a daughter that came to Baylor. And so she's seeing all this stuff around Waco. And where's this coming from? So she tracked down Pro-Life Waco and me, and sent me an email, and then pretty soon she's starting when she's visiting, she comes out and protests with us, and may well end up living in Waco.
That's awesome. What's next for John Pisciotta?
I'd like to hold on, if God's willing, for a few more years.
Oh, you got to do many more years.
Well, God willing.
I think you have a few decades left in you.
Yeah. But what we do is we just do what we do and think about opportunities that arise. So it's and this is another benefit about doing public square outreach. If you're doing stuff and you have a group with you on public square outreach, and something that comes up that needs attention, you have a foundation to react. You're not starting from scratch. Well, so I want to keep on with my antenna out about what's happening and respond to it. You may have heard of something called a GRACE Act, which they're trying to get passed in Texas, where they're trying to make the police stand down and not enforce abortion laws. So there is a small local pro-abortion group, and they maneuvered, and they didn't get it to a vote, but they got somebody on the city council to make a proposal. We need to consider a GRACE Act for Waco. Man, there's no way to stand by without responding, so I promoted this. I have friends and allies and Republican groups. Republican women were so helpful for this, churches, pastors. We had 300 to 400 people come out to a city council meeting
Awesome.
to smash it before it ever got off the ground.
Peacefully smash it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I use belligerent
No, it's good. You gotta
words,
fight.
and then they let us testify for 3 minutes. You know, you get that opportunity. And so, you know, the meeting lasted 5 hours because of all of the testimony. And they let all of us talk. And we had about 45 testimonies. And they're all on video. I kind of like to get all of those edited individually and made available, because it was all just different people from different perspectives on why that was a terrible idea. So, and I would like maybe to inspire some people across the country, get on board. You know, you can do it. You can do it.
We got to have you out this fall to our leadership summit. We'll do activism training there. We're going to get 500.
We need, you know, we're neglected. We're neglected a lot. And, you know, and this is, you know, this is one of the wings. You know, I think about pro-life, and it's churches, it's media, it's politics, it's pregnancy care, and it's public square outreach as well.
Thank you for blazing a trail and being an example and persevering in that. It's so needed.
Well, thank you.
How can people find your work?
Well, ProLifeWaco.com is our website. And send me an email with the word subscribe to it. We have a newsletter that we send out 2 to 3 times a month, just about what we're doing, you know, and get in touch with me. And, you know, I'm willing to assist and help. I mean, like on the CV, we got some real strong, nice signs. And, you know, I'm willing to supply the graphics to you and make some signs up. 4 or 5 people, 5 or 6 signs, you can do it. You know, it takes huge numbers, but you got to, you know, and I look back and we've done a lot, and we just started with baby steps and learning some things. You know, I like to protest the enablers of Planned Parenthood, you know, like Girl Scouts, like CVS and Walgreens. They should not get a pass. They should not get a pass. And it's an opportunity for us. Okay, we're protesting CVS. Is it all about CVS? No, it's not all about CVS. It's partially an excuse to get out in the public square where thousands of people will see you and let them know that they have neighbors who care about the shedding of innocent blood.
Thank you, John. Thank you for your work.
Lila.
It's an inspiration.
Well, I appreciate that very much. And
thanks for coming out.
Mutual inspiration. And
we got to have you out, and we're going to task you to give a talk and also to make some meatballs and spaghetti for everybody.
You know, I'm getting to the year where my mother, she didn't want that recipe out, but it's getting close. And maybe for someone who's half Italian,
I think
I can make an exception.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you so much.